What's up, Zox fam? Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering what exactly is Etheria Restart looking like for 2024. And I got to tell you guys, it's a lot that is in the works. And I want to get into what exactly they're working on. Why exactly are they working on these things? Because this is a game that I have been hyping up quite a bit. And I'm actually still really excited to see what Etheria Restart's able to do going into the next year. And I'm actually glad that they did decide to push their game back some, because it actually is giving them time to really make sure that they're releasing a really good product. And that's what I'm honestly going into 2024 trying to make sure that my time, and hopefully your time, is being invested into is games that are actually well thought out and have teams that actually care. And I feel like the things we're going to get into kind of show that. So let's jump right in. Right now, the thing is that they ran their betas on the CN side so far, and they did these through the hyperlink tests. Now, in order to even get into one of these hyperlink tests, if you're familiar with how they do these betas on CN sides, like either through TapTap or Bilibili, they usually require a Chinese ID card, and so that means it's basically you have to be in that country, right? So with that, what exactly happened during the last test that they had? So what essentially ended up happening, they ran into some issues, which is to be expected because it is a test, but I think it is fair to say that tests can be very, very crucial to how your overall audience feels about the game. But this is why it's such a great idea when companies limit how many people or what regions that they do these tests on, because honestly, when you have bigger issues happen on a much larger scale, that can definitely on a much larger scale negatively impact your game. So they had some poor experiences happen where some of the novice stages were too intensive, and the monster changes very little, and basically became repetitive. So these are some of the things that they got as feedback, or that they have as issues, that they're just at least noting that they acknowledge it happened, and they're not really running away from it, which again, I have an appreciation for that. Now, the 2x speed and automatic combat and the sprint function was open super late, so it, I guess, was just putting a certain taste in people's mouths. It was just taking them too long to get to that content. So there also wasn't a sufficient amount of early guidance, so I guess players were actually getting very lost, and they had the plot dialogue being too lengthy, right? And this is one of the issues for a lot of you guys that play like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail. They have those issues, in my opinion. I feel like the dialogue sometimes, and even some of the patches in its entirety, mean absolutely nothing. Like, you could literally take those things out of the game and the game would still function fine, right? So those things are things that they're at least acknowledging, which I feel like can be a much bigger problem for a company that isn't as massive as like Hoyo, for example. Now, the development team goes to say these opinions are very pertinent, and we are already formulating corresponding optimization plans. I guess they said but I guess that's we believe that everyone will have a better novice experience during the second test. So they're going to be running another test, which again is really, really good. Now, the process of developing and painting pictures is cumbersome, and some settings are unreasonable. And this is one of the things that players have brought to their attention. So the experience dungeon secret exploration battle has 3 very lengthy waves, so that being cut down seems to be a thing they're looking at. They have the Doki dungeon dialogue cannot be skipped, and it is very tiring to complete 3 waves. Raising stars for aliens or your units requires repeated operations, which is very inconvenient. It is difficult to obtain cultivation materials, and all kinds of materials are insufficient. And the upgraded smart shell cannot be inherited. So the SSR stranger is used as start upgrade material, and there are no protection reminders. So that's actually a really good point to bring up, is that they need to add a parameter to prevent, which some people like myself, like if you're used to playing turn-based games, you know not to fuse or to lock your characters. But that's kind of one of the reasons why, again, and what they did with Dislike, they actually gave caps to like equipment and made it to where you're only able to have 1 copy of a unit, because they wanted to prevent just on a general spectrum, players from fusing their high rarity characters into another high rarity character, which you can see obviously this was an issue because people were complaining about it. Now the development team goes to say they have deeply reflected on these issues, and it should have been possible to avoid all experience problems without internal optimization. We will ensure that the above issues are fully optimized in the next test. So these are things that we can expect to see fixed. And that's why I'm kind of going over them, because these are the issues that they had arise and that they plan on actually fixing. So we'll see what exactly they end up doing with them, but it is at least good that they're acknowledging these issues that they had, because that's really important to players in the overall experience. Now, another thing that some people have actually mentioned on some of my videos was the overall combat experience is not ideal enough. So the character skill performance is not cool enough. And it's kind of funny because I've never actually seen that in a developer vlog like feedback, where they just straight up was just like, yo, it's not even cool enough, which I completely can get that. There were some characters that I definitely felt were pretty cool, but then there were others where I was like, okay, I see the vision, but they could definitely do more, right? So the character skill performance is not cool enough, and some movements are not smooth enough. The double speed combat is not refreshing enough, and there are pauses between character actions. I mean, that's kind of one of those things to be expected with a beta, so you have to kind of let that be until they, full send whatever the potential final version will be. Now, the other things they have is there's not enough benefit from raiding into a battle. Failure in battle will deduct physical strength, and then also the impact of failing is not good enough, so characters hitting things doesn't have as much impact. And this is an issue I think they had in like Honkai in the very beginning, was just making sure that the characters felt impactful, like their sword was actually hitting a body, or a sword was hitting another sword, for example. And then it also goes to say the UI prompts are not clear enough. The automatic AI is not smart enough. Now, I will say this about AI. AI in most games is pretty dumb. Having a very intelligent or smart AI is honestly, I've yet to really see too many, or a significant amount of companies just successfully nail their AI system off rip. It does take a lot of time. And I think that also kind of coincides to them actually having finalized the game, because when you have a finalized project, you're able to program your AI a lot better when it comes down to like the actual application or understanding of like your gear sets or what units do to trigger something else. So does it trigger before, or does it trigger after the skill is activated, or is this passive do this? So it's a lot that kind of goes into the AI functionality. So I could definitely see that taking some time, right? That's not going to be like a right away thing. So they have said they've already made preliminary optimization plans to address these issues. Combat experience accounts for a very large part of your game time. We'll definitely invest more energy into making the audio through visual experience of combat better. And I'm really happy to hear that, because that means that they're actually, again, taking it serious. Now, some other things that players had brought up was the male to female ratio of the units is misaligned, and the artistic expression of some of the units is also really poor. So it's like kind of like if you looked at some of the facial expressions of some of the characters' eyes look like they were just staring at absolutely nothing. I think like just kind of adding more expression and emotion is really what players are getting at. And that was something I could kind of see too. And that's what I definitely think is going to make a huge difference, is the more that you're able to kind of give that, that underlying detail, it does draw people in on a much deeper level, just because they're able to connect more with the characters and not just feel like they're just like this object in a sense, right? So they go to say that there are too few female outliers in the game. Now, I'm going to remind you guys, this is CN, by the way. So they want more females characters in the game, which is actually kind of polar opposite than what typically happens. I will say the roster for guys in this game is pretty big compared to a lot of other gacha games, but they do have female characters. So, I mean, I think that that's a little subjective, because it's kind of like what exactly is a healthy balance of male to female. But I also think that's like, a still subjective statement, because of the fact that I'm from like the US, where at least now there's more games that are being presented with females versus like what I grew up off of, where there was a lot more males being, kind of pushed as the forefront, pro tags and things of that nature. So that kind of gets a little janky, but let me know what you guys think about that. Then the facial expressions of some of the characters need to be optimized, such as Hazy and Protagonist, etc. Like I was saying, like just making them not not seem lifeless, right? And there are differences between some character modeling and vertical painting. So I guess that like they want everything to, which in my opinion, I think is very, very important, is to make sure the continuity of the game is the same. Like you don't want it to look like you have a PNG from like Dragon Ball Z and then like a PNG from Jujutsu Kaisen in your game. Like, you know, like there's obviously some huge difference between what those characters look like, and just even down to if you're making sprites of those, right? So the development team says that we believe that being able to create attractive characters is key to whether it can attract players. So we have designed a larger number of attractive female characters. Now the thing is that this, I don't know exactly how and what they mean by attractive. I mean, because you guys already have seen like what CN's been doing, nerfing the booba on characters. So I'm kind of interested to see how exactly they're gonna go about doing that, because it's like, I mean, like maybe the characters just might look cool and that might be what they mean by attractive, because like outside of that, like if they do implement them like that, they're going to have to change them eventually, especially if they're based out or they're really trying to push, you know, to their CN audience to keep their game alive. So, you know, that's kind of something to be on the fence about. But they also say, but due to limited production capacity of the development team, we're not able to produce them in this super game. We see you all in the chain test. So the next test that they'll be running. We will work hard to increase the production capacity of character line and add more female characters in the next test. As for the expressions of some characters that are not natural enough, the models are not precise enough, and the differences from the vertical paintings, we have already recorded them and will definitely optimize them in the next test. So we'll be seeing hopefully a lot of changes. Now it says the male protagonists did not meet the expectations, hopes, and did they also hope to add a female protag? Now, with this, they said the protagonist is the character that the players operate the most and watch the longest. We sincerely apologize for not being able to satisfy everyone. We're already actively discussing optimization solutions, including but not limited to added optimal heroine for the first number. So I guess giving you the opportunity to be able to use a female protag. So I know some people are probably really into that idea. Then iterate the male protagonist concept and model, and optimize the actors' movements and expressions. And then they want to add a function of changing the protag's costume to meet the aesthetic preferences of different players for the protag, and this will be done in the wardrobe. The protagonist's home is reserved for this function. Now, other parts of the game that are lacking or have poor experiences, these are just some of the more like nitty, like super intricate things, like as far as like the backpack system or the navigation system. So what they go to say is that with these things, these are some of the preliminary optimizations that they're going to be focusing on. So again, any little thing, music, sound, smoothness, like you kind of see the general consensus here of what they brought up. These seem to be the things that they're going to be basically readjusting or optimizing or fixing. Now they also go to say, in addition to the above optimization points, in the next test, we also plan to launch many important new contents to give everyone a richer and more exciting gaming experience. The key new contents currently being planned are brand new main chapters and plots. It's good. New PvE challenges, Void Ember quests, basic social gameplay, which I'm assuming means more social interaction in game. So you being able to talk to players, guilds, stuff like that. Then new characters / new mine shell / new bosses. And then the basic systems such as the clue wall, picture books, and friends, right? So again, they're emphasizing the other QOLs to connect players so that we can actually interact with each other, which I feel like would actually be pretty good. But they go to then say, lastly, we apologize again for not being able to bring the best gaming experience to all hyperlinkers in the first hyperlink test. We'll actively discuss and refine the optimization points and new content, and we'll strive to, I guess, implement it into the new version with higher quality. They hope that everyone can have a better updated experience with every test, and they also hope that everyone can continue to support us and give us valuable opinions and suggestions. They believe that with the support of the players, the world of Yusur will definitely be better. We look forward to restarting the hyperlink in the next test, and we'll meet again. So with that, I'm actually going to say that I'm actually pretty impressed with them just head on addressing some of the issues that they had. And this is one of the things that I feel like for example, with like Dislight, right? That's been like one of the main games on the channel. They never actually really address anything head on. And I feel like the thing about addressing things head on is that one takes a lot of tenacity, and I would definitely say a lot of care to be able to look at like your product or your project and say like, you know what, our project's not the best right now, but we are going to make it better. And I feel like that's what really makes it worth for a player to stick it out or to see what exactly is going to happen in the future, because they actually feel like you are really putting the best foot forward to really making sure that you're fixing or making a better project, or, you know, really valuing their money if they're spending money. And that's kind of like the, you know, the most that I can kind of hope to see coming out of Etheria Restart is not only a fun game, but a game that actually cares about how we actually feel. And so this is what's making me excited as a creator, because it seems like this is an opportunity for the feedback to actually be taken in, and then to have these things actually being, you know, implemented into the game and not just being put to the wayside. So overall, I do feel like this is probably one of the more lengthy like optimization checks that I've seen a game have, as far as like all the feedback. And they didn't just like make up some random stuff like, hey, we had no circles on the wall, we'll add those circles to the wall. You know, they like actually really did take the time. So again, shout out to the development team for, like I said, addressing this stuff head on. Now the thing is that expected next test optimizations, how can this and how long should all these things take? Now, I've actually been in contact with one of the staff members, shout out to Jack, and the information that I was given as far as what exactly is going to be happening, they said for the next few months, these optimizations here are going to be what they're going to be working on for the next few months. So we won't be seeing another beta, considering that we're already going into 2 months since I actually last spoke to them about this specific issue. They are going to still have some more time allotted, so we'll probably be seeing something around January to February. That is my speculation, because that then would kind of fit into that narrative, or the, you know, that idea or scope of few months. Now, again, there is a, you know, a lot to still be done, considering that they do plan on running another beta, but hopefully after that next beta, hopefully it is public in more regions, so we'll be able to actually, you know, partake in it. But with that, we'll hopefully see a lot more coming, and seeing some of those changes I think is going to be really sick, especially with 2024 having so much to offer. So again, that's going to be that with this one, guys. But if Etheria Restart doesn't fit your fancy, definitely make sure you check out some of these other videos and see if there's anything that you might enjoy.